Hey guys, welcome to the talk show. This is the future of AI in business. So, this is a talk show where we talk to leaders across business and applied data science and understand what goes behind the scenes in building some of those amazing AI solutions and solving business problems. And today we have Sagarnil Das with us. He's one of the most passionate data scientists and leader in this space that I have personally worked with. And why do I call him as the most passionate? Right, he easily has. I think Sagar, you have like what more than 50 certifications now, and you continue to do that.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
right, and that's almost like I know. I remember, whenever I've interacted with him. Um, like there's work and post work there's like going deep into studying and going into as many competitions that are out there, from kegels of the world to certifications on Udemy. Like hands down he is probably the most passionate data scientist that I have come across. Hey
Thanks.
Saganil, welcome to the show.
Thanks,
um,
Vivek.
Great. Um, Hey, Sagar, would love to know, your background and also what got you inspired and how did you get into data science? Would love to know that.
Sure, Vivek. And first of all, thanks for having me here. This is a very tough question, but I would say that the major factor which I really don't tell anyone about, which got me into data science, was pain. The
Hmm.
pain and suffering and failures is what got me where I am today. And I'm going to talk about that. But apart from that, one more thing which got me here is I always loved mathematics.
Hmm.
Somehow it felt like mathematics transcended all the barriers between languages, religions, castes, and creeds. It was a universal language by itself that everyone can understand and appreciate. So the pain part that started when I got a full scholarship in University of Central Florida in my masters while doing my masters. So I was working in this NASA-funded project for satellites in space, and one fine morning, one experiment which we were doing went terribly wrong, and we suddenly lost our funding and scholarship. So that was the first wake up call for me that not everything was as colorful as I perceived to be before that, because before that I have never lived so far away from my home. It's almost like 15,000 kilometers away from my home, and suddenly one fine morning, oh shit, I don't have anything. That's where I started doing very menial jobs. So from being a very full a PhD student with having full scholarship and also the very prestigious Dean's Fellowship, I
Hmm.
went to become nothing, and I started doing
Hmm.
jobs in gas stations. I started doing
Wow.
jobs as
Really?
bartender. I started showing street magic, if that makes any sense.
Wow.
So
That
that
that's
was
like
really,
extreme.
yeah, very extreme, very extreme. So I used to like show people like this random people street magic, and they were like, I actually gained a name by about myself. Actually, a local newspaper also published a story about me for my street
Wow.
magic. So I was becoming popular, but I didn't have any money. I
Hmm.
had a neck deep loan. All my credit cards were filled up. So it was really a nightmarish time. I at some point of time I was like sleeping in a rest area, and I didn't have a place to crash. But
Wow.
this when I like now when I look back to those days, they seem to be the best days, which actually made me who I am today. You know, and a certain after 1 year, I actually managed to crack a job in the data science field,
Hmm.
because I studied so hard. Because everything in the world seemed much easier than the way I was at that time. That was
Mm.
the most difficult thing to live as a
Wow.
person with no money. And everything
Mm.
else seemed very easy compared to that. So studying data science was not hard for me, especially the fact that I always loved mathematics.
Mm.
So I cracked a job in Computer Science Corporation in the Obamacare project, and that was a big success.
Mm.
We were really appreciated for creating the foundational structure for Obamacare. And after that, I always also worked for New York State Department of Health. But after
Nice.
that, I came back to India for certain
Mm-hmm.
reasons, family reasons. And here I actually worked in Future Group and then finally in Hopscotch. But working somewhere doesn't tell you the full story. It's what goes on in the back end, right? So
Correct.
I literally spent 16 hours per day, and in over the weekdays and in weekends I always like worked for 7 8 hours. And I studied. I did all these certifications because I am a self-made data scientist. I didn't have a
Mm.
statistical background or a mathematical background. I was from a material science department, and data science had nothing to do with it.
Mm.
So one mentor of mine, he once said a very valuable thing to me, that till now, your competitors were scholars, PhD
Ah,
students, etc., right? Researchers. But now
right.
your competitors are mathematicians, statisticians, and they have been studying this since their childhood, since their
Right.
bachelors. And you
Yeah.
have lost so much time. So that means you have to work that much more in order, if you even want to have a slight chance for competing with them. And that actually kept me running. So when they were sleeping, I was still working. That is actually
Mm.
what got me through this enormous, amazing job of data science world and the artificial intelligence world. And I'm so, I don't have anything to say, but all my humility goes to my parents, my friends who supported me throughout these years, and my dedication. So
Mm.
that's how, that is the background of me getting into data science.
Very, very nice and very inspiring, especially for many people that keep asking me, especially early on in their career, on AI. We know is the future, right? Like how software ate the world for breakfast. AI is gonna eat software and everything else. So everybody wants to kind of jump in on this, but very inspiring for people, especially from non-math background, right? If you can do it, like anybody can do it, and
Anyone can do
especially
it.
given,
Absolutely.
like all it takes is, you need to kind of grind it out there, give it all you have, and you will be successful. Awesome,
Absolutely.
very,
Like,
very, very
and here
inspiring.
I have seen that your determination is the most important thing, not
Mm,
your background. We have been
correct.
taught in a different way with our educational system, but that is simply wrong today. That does not
Mm.
work.
Right, right. No, absolutely, absolutely. No, thanks. It's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So from there, now you're a leader in this space, and have worked across, from healthcare, to retail, to blockchain, multiple domains, large organizations, startups, right? You've put in so much, solved some amazing problems. Um, if you were to, if I have to ask you, right, and there are two parts to this. So one is, from purely from a data science standpoint, right? So what are those top one, two, challenges, problems that really, excited you, like something that you are very proud of? And post this, I'll ask you from a business standpoint, what are those, probably top one or two business problems that you've solved using data science that you're really proud of? And these two could be the same, but typically what I've seen is, some of the problems that are like really fascinating for data science might not be as great, challenges yet for business. And
Absolutely.
and the other way around too, right? Something could be like really great for business, but not a great challenge for a data scientist. So from a for a data scientist in you, what would be those one two data science challenges that you've come across, that you've worked on, that you're really proud of?
Yeah, Vivek, you're absolutely right. So, because it's funny, but the most exciting data science problem that I have worked with did not come from my job, but it came from reading research papers and publications.
Yeah.
So, I was always very interested in robotics, and I taught myself different robotics simulation softwares like ROS, Gazebo, ArtTabMap, etc. One of the tougher problems I solved was SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping. So the problem is, in SLAM, a robot must construct a map of its environment, and
Right.
while simultaneously localizing itself relative to the map. So if you think about it, it's a slightly chicken or egg problem. It does not know where it is in the world, and at the same time, it has to map an environment around it, right?
Correct.
So it becomes what to do first, right? So that's why it's called simultaneously localization and mapping. And there is a lot of probabilistic mathematics involved in this, and this problem is more challenging than simply localizing or simply mapping, because it's simultaneously doing both of them. I also have published a paper regarding the same in
Oh, wow.
International Journal of Scientific and Engineering Research, and it was a really amazing period for me when it got published, because I did not have an advisor at that time, a PhD advisor or anything like that. I was doing a full-time job in a leading retail domain, and I was writing this paper solely, right? Sole author. After the 8 hours of my cubicle life got over. So this is what I was working on. And when this paper got published, I was like besides myself with joy. It was tremendous happiness that this paper has brought me.
Sure.
The one other project I'm very proud of is I created a self-flying drone, so the problem statement is this, that the drone should follow its owner anywhere, while also doing obstacle detection and also avoiding those obstacles simultaneously. So that's a tough problem.
Right.
So if you think about it, there are multiple factors at play, right? So first, the drone needs to recognize its owner. So this
Correct.
is where the facial recognition algorithm comes into play, which is always recognizing that if there are like 10 people around, it will actually recognize who is the owner, right? Once that is done, the drone needs to constantly follow the owner. For
Right.
this, I used the open pose detection. Initially, I was using her cascades, but that was not working well in low light condition. Open pose seemed to be like a giant improvement on top of that. And also the last challenge, and this was the most tough problem, was for the obstacle detection and avoidance. This is where I used a deep reinforcement learning algorithm. The problem was that the drone was not equipped with a 3D depth camera, which can actually also perceive a depth, or it was not equipped with a 3D sensor like LiDAR. It only had a 2D point camera, and it only can capture 2D resolution images, right? The problem was to create an effective depth map from this, because I need to understand which is the freeway, and which are the obstacles that are closest to the drone, and which are obstacles that are very far away from the drone. So the drone needs to understand that, and it needs to understand that from a 2D video feed, camera feed, right? So that was a very challenging problem to solve, but I was able to solve it with using deep reinforcement learning. That's why it was even more satisfying, because I actually was able to merge all these three very different parts of the artificial intelligence domain in one project. And when that drone got flying, I was so happy. So you can see in this video that this drone is actually constantly following me. And it actually also recognizes my hand gestures. Like if I can tell it to go up, I can tell it to go down, I can tell it to step back or come forward. And if you see, like once it does not have a camera in the back, it only has a camera in the front. So once it actually got like it actually hits my door, my my house's
Right.
one door of my house, but immediately it reorients itself.
Yeah.
Immediately it reorients itself and again follows me simultaneously, right? And
Very
it is
nice.
actually doing all these things in a very cluttered environment, like a house, like a big house, which is always very cluttered with equipments and whatnot, right? So this was really an amazing project, which I'm very happy about.
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, very, very amazing. I think this is what you get when you are so passionate, right? And don't really, you know, take this as work versus, you know, like you put in everything you have behind doing stuff, and it automatically also reflects in your work, right? Because you're
Yeah,
enjoying this so
yeah,
much, you're learning this so much, and especially in something like, you know, like AI, right? Where every day there are new algorithms, new developments happening. So you got to be on top of, you know, on top of things.
absolutely.
Very, very, very cool, very inspiring.
Thanks.
Now I think, you know, we should talk about the business side of things.
Yeah,
I know the data scientist in you probably might not be as inspired, but the business leader in you would be really, really happy to see that, you know, as a data scientist, you were able to, you know, probably, you know, with this easy. I know it's in retrospect it looks easy, but you know, coming up with the algorithms, coming up with some solution where it had an amazing impact on business.
yeah.
Probably top one or two of those that really you know that you're proud of.
Yep. Yeah, this is a very good question actually, because if you think about the previous two problems which I talked about, even though they have very large implications on like real world applications, but still,
Yeah,
if I take a look at the most common modern day industries like retail, banking, etc.,
correct.
this is not really applicable there. I have worked a large part of my life in retail domain, and one of the very tough business problem which I solved was predicting which customer will come in the following week or 2 weeks after right now, right? That was a
That
very tough problem to solve, and it has
right, and very
tremendous
valuable as well. Very
very
valuable.
valuable as well, because like business wants to crazily market these people. They want to instead of like marketing, like sending SMS to like 1 billion people, now you can actually send SMS to a lot smaller subset, which actually essentially reduces your money, and then you can actually know about these customers, that what they are most likely to buy, so they can like very effective targeted marketing. So that was the major use case for this. That was what actually gained the business almost like 2 crores of incremental margin
Wow.
within just 2 months, I believe. So the problem statement was like to predict which customer will come in the following week, right? So this was a very challenging problem, because it was, if you think about it from a layman's perspective, it's almost like fortune telling. But if you think about it, we can actually denote this behavior with just two numbers, a 1 and a 0. Like if I take the customer's visiting history over time, it's nothing but a sequence of ones and zeros over week on week, right?
Yeah.
Either he or she came, or the customer didn't come,
Right.
right? So if I consider all the customers, that means I got multiple sequences of ones and zeros. So over there, I actually used a encoder-decoder neural network architecture coupled with an attention mechanism to predict this. Apart from that, we also fed multiple metadatas about the customers into the neural network, like the customer behavior, customer personality, what is their shopping style, how frequently they buy, what type of products they usually buy. All these things were like put into two giant neural networks. But after we got the results, we almost got a 74% accuracy in this, which is like huge for
Oh,
business.
very cool.
And this is where we actually achieved 2 crore of incremental revenue, incremental profit within just 2 months. And I am in touch with some of those people, and they still think that I was doing some kind of black magic till this date.
Oh, predictive analytics, right? Like, and
Predictive,
combining
yeah,
that with AI. Yeah, absolutely. That's magic.
absolutely. So see, like you always have to look at these problems from the business perspective. Like how you, like you know, 20 algorithms. Guess what? The business doesn't care about that.
Yeah,
They care about is how can you solve their pain points, right?
correct.
And the communication with them is of essential value. See, like
Mm,
I'll give you another example. Another example was solving a dynamic pricing problem, right?
mm,
Or differential pricing problem, because guess what, you always will have competitors, and you
mm,
will, if you are a retail company, you will have multiple products, right? And for them, determining the optimum pricing is very pivotal for your
correct.
bank, for your ROI, right?
Yes.
So but let me first discuss a few challenges of this problem.
Hmm.
When you are tackling a problem like this, you cannot treat it as a conventional machine learning problem, because in machine learning we generally need thousands and thousands of rows, right?
Right.
But for a particular product, do you think the price will change thousands of times? No, most likely, right? It will
Mm,
most likely change how, what, 15, 20 times at max. So that's
yeah.
a very small data set you are beginning with, right?
Mm,
That's the
mm,
first challenge. The second challenge is the product might be a seasonal product. So most likely in some seasons the sale will go high, and at that time you can afford to keep a high
mm,
price because the
correct.
demand is in a case high, but not in the other periods or other seasons of the year, right?
Mm,
That is the second problem. The third problem is cannibalization. Like, let's say you have a
ah,
product category and you have two similar products, product A and product B.
mm,
If you build something which tremendously increases product A's price and tremendously decreases product B's price, then guess what? Product B will cannibalize product A, and
correct.
your product A will be dead, right?
Yeah.
So these are the actual challenges which I faced, and which the business also faces, and which needs to be addressed in an intelligent manner.
Mm,
So I can't discuss the entire process for
of
obvious
course.
reasons, because I was fully employed at that time. But I can tell you a very brief gist. You use it as a stochastic problem
Mm,
instead of treating it as a deterministic problem. So
mm,
basically, you go to the realm of Bayesian statistics and
mhm.
Markov chain Monte Carlo methods. With the help
Ah,
of these methods, you can find the inflection point in the price elasticity of demand curve. And then
mm,
after you have done that, you also need another forecasting model for predicting the demand of the product in a particular session. And then with some proprietary methods, you can actually, I was actually able to neutralize the cannibalization. Combining
mm.
all these three methods, we finally got the optimum price of a product, what it should be at any point of time. And this model ran for 6 weeks, and it gave us an incremental CM2 of 36 lakhs, which was huge. And but after that, the second wave of COVID hit, and we had to shut down the business. We had to shut down this model, or we had to shut down this dynamic pricing model, because there is no model which is good enough to model the effect of COVID. And
Correct.
it actually went haywire at the time. But that's not the point. The point is, like, before the COVID, it actually showed that how
Mm,
we can actually leverage AI to our own needs and own benefits to
correct.
almost like 100x your ROI or profit. And any
Absolutely.
organization can do this. This is possible
Correct.
not only for large scale organizations, but also medium and small scale organizations who cannot afford a very big division. If you play your cards right, that's the most
Exactly.
important part.
Exactly. Um, Great. That gets us to a next very interesting question. Um, Today, I mean, like last 10 years, right? Only the large organizations have had access to, solving their business problems or improving their key metrics using AI because it invariably needs a large data science team, and not just a data scientist, but you also need, the data engineers to ML ops to the rest of the folks who can kind of orchestrate and make this happen. So now, going forward, it's going to be table stakes for for every organization. because business analysts and business leaders can only do so much, right? To get the next level of optimization, you really need to have, bring in data science capabilities into your organization. So, any thoughts on that? I know I remember you said you need to play the cards right. So, what would be your thoughts on how can small organizations do this? Can business folks, understand data science to some extent? Can business analysts be enabled to do this? Given your transition, right, from not a, don't even have any idea of data science to being a data science leader. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Vivek. So that's a really great question, and we are still trying to find an answer, a really good answer to that. So one of the major things that frustrates me is this interdependency between the different data teams. Like you
Hmm.
said, right? Data science or machine learning, a machine learning model is a very very small part of the whole picture. So Google actually has published a paper about this called the hidden technical dates of machine learning, where you
Hmm.
can see, like if you read that paper, you will see that machine learning is just a small, a tiny box inside so many different things going on. If you want to make your organization data driven or AI driven, right? And like you said, that we need so many teams like data analysts, DevOps, MLOps, data engineers, you name it, right? And all these teams needs to work as one single organic unit, which is almost impossible nowadays
Yeah.
because as a result, you are seeing so many emails going back and forth, a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, but the speed at which anything gets productionized is super low. And that's the exact reason, like actually Harvard Business Review published a report about this, that 80% of the machine learning projects
Yeah.
never make it to productions.
It's a
And
shame. Yeah.
we always wish that there was a way around this. One potential way that I can see look at this happen is like creating one stop solution for everything, like like where instead of having so many teams, have something which actually ties all this team together and everybody can work in collaboration inside that tool. And that will actually be super helpful to make all these beautiful use cases successful, which will actually be beneficial for the businesses, that 100x ROI we're talking about. So that is something that needs to be done.
Mm. Sure. Yeah, and it's important. Like I said, going forward, it's going to be table stakes for everyone to have some AI strategy. I know I don't care if you're a startup, but show me the money, right? Show me efficiencies. That's the only way you can compete in this this hyper efficient world.
Absolutely.
Uh, Great. So, couple more questions.
Yeah.
Oh, are there any learnings in your career from transitioning to a, from a fresher in this field to managing teams and now as a leader? Any learnings that like on top of your head, mind?
Yeah. So the biggest learning I had was don't undervalue yourself. Never undervalue yourself. And especially like for me, it was almost like a gene that ran across my families. My
Mm.
grandfather undervalued himself. My father undervalued himself, and now my father tells me that I also undervalued. I also am carrying the same baton of the family. So see, this I understood. Like I realized this when I got a job offer from Google. I got a job
Mm.
offer from another company which actually offered me a vice president of data science position, and they offered me to pay 15 crore rupees as a salary, yearly salary. So always know what you are worth, and really don't be shy to ask about that, because what you don't ask, you don't get.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And also that translates to work, right? Here, this is not like a cookie cutter, right? Like if you were to build a tech stack, you could like look up, so, like Stack Overflow to whatever, and then probably bring in some solutions. Here, you need to be very, very confident. Right,
Absolutely.
I'm talking about the work side of it,
Absolutely.
and data science demands it that you be confident, you be very well informed, and because it could be make or break, right?
Absolutely.
And there's no like rule book where you could refer to. So
Yes.
very important that you're confident and you value and then you are very well informed.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yes.
Great. So I think last two questions.
Yep.
um I know you study like crazy, right? You're on top of whatever is happening. What are the top one or two things that are exciting that are happening right now, where that made you kind of sit back and say, "Wow, right? This is insane." Any one or two things that you can think of?
Yeah, so there have been some that's a good question, because in data science, like you always have to constantly upgrade yourself. What you know today to be right may not be right tomorrow, right? There has been some
Absolutely.
tremendous happenings in the realm of artificial intelligence recently. So you most likely are aware of deep fakes, right? Vivek?
Mhm.
Right, but
Yeah.
nvidia, like nvidia recently published a paper which will put deepfakes to shame, utter shame. uh,
Oh,
so
wow.
the
I
thing
thought
is, they
deepfake was
developed
out of
an
the world.
ai. Yeah, they developed an ai which can put emotions in a character's facial expression based on the
Ah,
audio you are mapping it to. So whatever audio you want it to say, it will not only say that, but also if you just
wow.
take just a picture, it will become a
Hmm.
video and it will actually create those facial expressions or emotions based on the audio
Wow.
that it is actually uttering. So
This is like
we are living in a
deepfake,
magical time, really.
right? And this is like deepfake to the next unimaginable level, right? Like
Absolutely,
now,
deepfakes version 2.
yeah, I mean, like miles ahead. I mean, you don't even now need a human, right? Like you could just script it and then introduce a like character, and then it could even like be very realistic, including all the emotions. Wow.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, like we live in a very exciting
very
times
exciting
ahead.
world we're living
So
in.
awesome, great. So last question, last two questions actually.
Sure.
Um, you've transitioned from being a starting off in data science to becoming a manager, and now you are a leader. So where do you see yourself from here now? Right, next 5-10 years. What is it that excites you, and where do you see yourself going from here?
Where do I see myself in the next couple of years? That's a tough
Right.
question. So my one of my major goals is to enable uh, small and medium organizations to be completely data driven, and to understand
Hmm.
them, make them understand out, and teach them how to do that, because we have this misconception that only huge organizations can be a completely AI driven organizations. Just
Right.
believe me, I have worked for both, and it is tough even for huge organizations, let alone small and
Correct.
medium sized companies, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
the challenging part is not to create an ML model, but to create an ecosystem which is completely an end-to-end data-driven ecosystem. That is the most challenging part,
Hmm.
where from one side you have the data feeding in, and from the one
Correct.
another side you have answers coming out, not ML models,
Hmm.
but answers which actually solves your business problems. It can be anything. It
Hmm.
can be any domain, but
Correct.
this is what enables an organizations to take AI-driven decisions quickly, conveniently, and
Right.
with conviction, right? But with proper
Absolutely.
blueprint and smart planning, any company can do this. And this is how
Correct.
I see myself in the next few years, helping organizations in fulfilling their dream and
Hmm.
200x their ROI.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that's like I said earlier in one of our questions. I think it's tables. It's table stakes now,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Even smaller organizations, if they have to compete, they need to have this edge in terms of imbibing data science into their products, into their in
Into
all
their
their
mindset,
decisions.
yes.
in their mindsets, right?
Yep.
And I think like if you ask me, being on the other side, being on the business and having built products, another aspect is the explainability,
Explain.
right? Like how do I get this confidence on this model, right? If this is going to be predicting right. Right, I think that's another area that if that kicks in, that gets strengthened, that will see a lot of
Yes,
adoption.
absolutely. And most
That
likely you have seen a lot of that, right? That many data scientists
Hmm,
most likely have come to you so many times and see, hey, I have made a 95% accurate model. And you are like, hey, okay, 1 second,
it's
95% accuracy. What does it mean? Can you explain
it's
it to
all
me?
overfit.
And he's like, oh, no, this is a black box. Have you ever seen that
Correct.
happening in your life?
Yeah, all the time. That and how overfitting the
Right, right.
data is. Yeah,
But you are absolutely correct, Vivek. So we need there is a whole new domain of AI, which is the explainable AI, which actually not
yeah,
only explains the model for the data scientist, but it actually gives you a 360-degree view of the model to the business people also, who actually
Hmm,
are in the charge of taking the final decisions, but who don't have that much in-depth mathematical knowledge, right? So for them, we need to make these models easier to understand, easier to explain, and also answer this pivotal question: why
hmm,
does it predict what it predicts, right?
correct.
So what's the
Most
reasoning?
important.
Like if a model says that, hey, for this store and for this item your sales will be 500 rupees, then you need to
Correct.
most likely understand why is that it says 500 rupees, what is it thinks, what is its logical reasoning.
Correct.
So if someone explains that to you, or the explainable AI explains it to you, then most likely you can compare it with your own intuition and take a much more confident decision, and you can gain confidence on this black box ML models which we are so smart in building, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Thanks. So one last question,
Sure.
right? So a lot of people ask me on how do I get into data science, right? People, this is how the cohort is, or the segment of folks that want to get into data
Yep.
science. They are business folks, really interested in this very glamorous, very sexy world of AI. Then there are these business analysts, right, who just do analytics and they know the potential and the power and the future. They want to get into that.
Yep.
And then the third segment is a lot of developers and tech folks wanting to get into data science,
Yep.
right? And my question to you is, unlike, look, if I were to, if I had to become a developer, right?
Yep.
Like if I had to learn one language, it's very, very one dimensional problem,
Yep.
which is I just sit and learn Python,
Yep.
right? And then I become full stack, learn few frameworks, like get the UI side of it, and then it's all connected, right? Versus data science is probably a like multi-folds complex,
Absolutely.
complicated, because you need to have the understanding of math, like the basics, like go to the roots, right? And even there you have like statistics to linear algebra to bunch of things, right?
Yep.
And then on top of it, you also need to have your programming chops.
Yep.
So how should one look at it? Because it becomes very like I get excited and I start, and 95% of them drop because it's too challenging, right? And it's
Yep.
too overwhelming.
Yep.
So what would be your given you've been through that phase, like what would be your suggestions? How should somebody look at it? That will be very valuable to a lot of
Yeah,
people.
that is actually an excellent question, Vivek. So let me tell you one of my experiences. So I was a mentor at Uda City at some point of time, and
Mm,
you guess, just guess this. Of a particular for a particular country, the student dropout rate was the highest, and guess what? It was India. Okay, so I will answer this question in a deeper way, because if you ask this question to anybody, they will tell you to take this certification or take that certification, do that, do this, study this,
exactly.
right? Like you said, you need to understand math, statistics, computer programming, all these things. But the problem is actually deeper. The problem is in your mindset. So I'm going to give you the answer in that perspective. So, with that being said, one of the best suggestions that I can give you is which actually helped me a lot because I actually followed this principle from my very own core. And that thing is never to limit yourself. From our early childhood, we have been always taught to put on one shoe at a time. You have been taught to label yourself as a doctor, as an engineer, as a nurse. But this thought will only prohibit yourself to reach your full potential. Instead of thinking yourself as a doctor or an engineer, think of yourself as a problem solver. Just imagine this. Let's say this is the end of the world, and you can only save it by doing something which lies outside of your comfort zone. What will you do? Will you still label yourself as a doctor or an engineer who is not supposed to do this job? Or will you rise to this occasion, rise like a phoenix, and experience a side of yourself which you have never seen before? So my suggestion to all these people who wants to come into data science, who are not from a data science background, because I understand their pain, because I am not from a data science background, right? So I will. So my suggestion will be to always believe in yourself and push yourself harder and harder. It might be very difficult at first, It was very scary for me, and it might want to break you to 1,000 pieces. So go outside your comfort zone like a horse on steroid, if that makes any sense.
Correct.
Right? But believe me, like if you do this, if you are able to do this, the night is the darkest just before the dawn, and there will be a new dawn which you will experience soon. The one which you have never seen before, the one which you have never felt before, and the one that is eternal.
Very, very inspiring and much required. That's my biggest challenge is, drop-offs, right? And this is the future, so it's scary as well, right? Like you see a lot of data scientists with, probably some certifications from one of these platforms, and they call themselves data scientists, right? And it's scary. The entire organization is betting on folks like that. So absolutely, I think you did it right. You got to go deeper, give it time, and not be scared.
Yes, always
and
walk
really do a
that
good
extra
job.
mile, which no one else will do. Always do
Correct.
that. That extra mile will make you shine so much more than the rest of the others.
Correct. Absolutely. Awesome. I think it was a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Vivek,
Very,
for
very
having me here.
insightful.
Thank you, Vivek.
All right. It was a pleasure, and see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vivek. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.